All right, we always like to warn you about new apps that could negatively impact your children. And now there's a controversial new one from Weight Watchers. Could it help the millions of kids struggling with their weight, or will it make children even more self-conscious about their body image? So let's talk more about it with pediatric dietitian Rachel Rothman. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
There's so many questions that we have for a dietitian that specializes in our children. That's why we are so happy to have you back. So let's talk about this app. What are the health issues that professionals are worried about with this one?
Sure. So with the app, it's called Kurbo, and it's essentially an app to track calories, or not to track calories, but to track food and track intake. So it's geared towards children ages 8 to 17, and essentially they download the app, they put in their information, they put in their weight, their height, they choose a health goal, and then they're given an allotment of food based on a stoplight system, so green, yellow, and red light food. So green foods are mostly fruits and vegetables, yellow foods are lean proteins, and red foods are essentially higher calorie and higher fat foods. So the danger with this is it's essentially a diet and putting kids on a diet. And we know that dieting can be a big predictor of children developing eating disorders as they get older.
And so, yeah, they're constantly thinking about food now. What's a better way for parents to handle it? I mean, we know the latest government data says that 20% of kids ages 2 to 19 are obese.
Yes.
So how can families help their children when they know this might be an issue?
Very great question. And I think essentially it comes down to not talking about dieting and weight loss. And the American Academy of Pediatrics, they have a position paper, and they really recommend not talking about diets or bodies or weight loss with kids. So really what's more important is to focus on a healthy lifestyle, to think about modeling healthy behaviors with your family. Kids really learn from what we do, so if we can model these healthy behaviors, that's essentially how they learn. It's also about maybe having family meals together, and to think about health, not necessarily for weight loss, but just in a as a lifestyle change. And in addition, parents can also talk to their pediatrician or a registered dietitian or a health professional. Kurbo, they do have some kind of health professionals that you can pay to speak with, but they're not necessarily trained in nutrition and dealing with the children, and really have education, a background.
So it's just somebody on an app that's answering questions that your kids may have. That doesn't sound good at all.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, so is there a danger in kids actually counting calories? It's just, when should they start doing that? I mean, teenagers, they kind of go on diets, I would think.
I would recommend you should never really do that, actually. And really thinking about what Kurbo is doing is really creating this good and bad food, which we don't want to do. If you look into the app, some of the red foods, which are, I think children are allotted about 2 or 3 portions per day, are peanut butter and full-fat yogurt.
Which is actually good.
Exactly. And we know more and more that fat is good for us, and especially those healthy fats. And children are really black and white thinkers, so we're kind of creating this good and bad food based on a system that's not necessarily fully true. I also think about how children really need essential nutrients, for example, iron and calcium, and the fruits and vegetables, which are the green foods, are great. I have nothing against fruits and vegetables, but some of these other nutrients are in some of these yellow and red foods, which are creating this kind of bad connotation to them.
Unhealthy relationship with food, I think.
Exactly.
Okay, so boys and girls are both, they're both susceptible to eating disorders. How can parents, when they see a problem with that, what should they do?
Yes, I definitely recommend that my first step would be to talk to a health professional, to talk to somebody, to get advice and get evidence-based, real advice on that. I also recommend parents, even thinking about like a precursor to that, not talking about body image or not talking about weight at all. Really, we know that weight isn't really a good predictor of healthiness in somebody. So really thinking about healthiness as a lifestyle, and really taking away that shame in bodies. Bodies come in all different shapes and sizes, and we have to remember that.
Okay, remember that, parents. It's especially, I think, for women. We have something we need to think about. Okay, so I'm going to link people to your Facebook page. If they have more questions, they can ask you. Thank you so much again for joining us, Rachel.
Thank you for having me.